have to go to London to go all the way, but I think they can get a really good start up here. I hope they will get a good start up here. The first couple of singles weren't suitable for daytime radio airplay. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think the band know it. However, this one is superbly produced. It shows clear up in the sort of light in which you really should be showing up in. The backing is absolute magic. I think it's a top tenor. I think they'll move away from here. I think it has to be London. And the continent. This will also go well on the continent too. And from that point, who knows? Because they're multi-talented.
It's hard to describe, because the hardest, no question, what type of music do you play? I mean, it's the person who's no watches this makes up their own mind. Everybody's got their own idea of what we are like. It's not one set idea.
How's the music going down, Titch, from performances that you've had so far?
Ecstatic. Really, really good. Like, in London, we've got... We played a place in London called the ICA and we sold it out. That was the last gig we did in London. And we'll probably be playing there again within the next couple of months. Hopefully it'll go just as well.
But in London, I mean, you say London, you've got to go to London, haven't you, to do something?
Well, like, we've not played in Glasgow for about 4 months or something because there's not a lot of venues, but I think we're going to be playing there in end of August or something, September.
Do you think it's a pity that there aren't a lot of venues for you?
Yeah, well, there should be, because there's a lot of good bands up here, an awful lot. The only choice they've got is to go to London and try and look for gigs. That's about it.
The facilities in Scotland, Glasgow in particular, are really bad. It's a sort of catch-22 situation where if you are a publican and you own a pub and put a band on, you can't charge an admission price as you can in London or Edinburgh or any other major city in Britain. So therefore the band play for ludicrous money. And it's just very stifling for talent. You know, you'll get bands who'll be playing places in the centre of Glasgow and some very well-known places who played there in 1969 and get 10 quid, and who can play there in 1981 and still get 10 quid. And, you know, they end up out of pocket, there's no doubt about it.
Let's talk about Altered Images for a minute. How far do you think they can go? I mean, it's up to themselves, but I mean, to what percentage of them fall away after a while?
Well, a band like Altered Images can either be superstars or they can be absolutely nothing. But really, who cares? You know, if they want to make records and people like them and they get to #1, fantastic. But if they just make records which get to number 49 in the charts for the next 5 years, well, I'm sure they would be wishing for a lot more than that. But, you know, they've had a great time. I mean, it's better than being a plumber, don't you think?
Do you think it's a pity probably in time that they'll probably all have to base themselves down in London if they're going to do anything?
Well, this is the great myth. The problem between Glasgow, Edinburgh and London is something like 450 miles and £112 in the shuttle. That is really the only problem. If you go down to London and see a band, any band, just say a band like Altered Images, the Dream Boys, one of the sort of up-and-coming Glasgow bands, playing in a pub in London or a club in London, I could go and write about them in a paper in London, and, you know, the exposure they could get could be beneficial to them. But up in Scotland that very rarely happens, because the media on the whole, television, radio and newspapers, are just so much into tokenism. You know, they'll take wee things here and wee things there, but they just don't bother their shit. You know, as far as television, radio and newspapers are concerned, Kelly Marie, Sheena Easton, full stop. Forget it. Donovan, wasn't he fun?
If you'd like to be compared to somebody, who would you like to be compared to?
ABBA. Most definitely. The best pop group in the world. There's no denying that fact. They just have hit after hit. Just love to be like them, more than any other band.
You'll have to get all fat and grow a beard and everything. Maybe with success you'll be able to feed yourself up.
You don't look like any of the girls in ABBA, Claire.
No? I suppose not, but they've not been as lucky as me in life, really.
You're running it from the end. Okay.
A young band, the only thing you can say to them is try and get their own thing, you know, something that they can relate against everybody else and take, you know, something that's theirs and nobody else's. You know, like for us anyway, it was obviously the Tartan, and it was our image, you know, we went that way. But for a band that's starting, you know, the only thing that they can do is just to really hang in there. Because, you know, sometimes you get a lucky break, sometimes you don't. This business is very, very extreme. I mean, you're up there or you're down there. There's no in between in this business. But if you can keep your head right in the middle there, that's, you know, the best way to handle it. And that's what we've done, basically.
You need a really good manager, because every band that's been famous has always been a good manager behind it. You know, like the Pistols, McLaren, and the Rolling Stones, the Beatles. Always had a good manager, so it's important to have one.
You know, because we were so naive, it was unreal, you know. You know, if a guy came along to us, I mean, this is one thing you've got to be wary of. Like if you are in a band, a young band, you know, if somebody comes along and he smiles, doesn't necessarily mean like he's a nice guy. As we had like in our early days, when so many people come along, oh hi guys, sign here, yeah, sure, no problem, you know. And then the next thing you find, you look down your bank account and it's like a big drop in it, you know. You say, Jesus, who was that guy? Get a lawyer, that's the first thing. And once you have some hits, get a lawyer to check up on your lawyer, you know. It gets in the end it drives you nuts, you know. You really have got to try and spend 5 hours on it, like the actual management business side, and then get away from it because you'll go crazy, you know. Because I'd done it once, and you really have got to give yourself a break, you know.
I think you've got to have other outside interests other than music. Like do some sort of sport, because if you're in music 24 hours a day, then there's no denying that you're going to get fed up with it. So you've got to have something sometimes to take your mind off it.
Yeah, but it's very hard because we're away all the time, really. Unless, I don't know, but it's away all the time. You can't really get a chance to keep anything going or doing it.
Is the band everything you've got at the moment, Ted?
At the moment, yeah, because I can't think of anything else I'd like to do better. You know, if I could think of something else to do, I'd probably do it, but this is it at the moment, and hopefully that's the way it'll continue for a while.
You've had a bit of experience, of course, Claire, acting. I mean, Gregory's Girl.
Yeah.
We all know you from that. Do you think you'd like to do that again in time, or for the moment you're quite keen to concentrate on Altered Images?
Oh, well, I'm keen to just concentrate on Altered Images just now. Practice my singing.
We're really confident about the music, and it's getting more musical as we go on. So I think we're finding out more ideas are getting better, and hopefully we just get stronger and stronger and people like us better.
Yeah, try and cover all markets. I mean, before just appeal to a minority, so it's more of a chance now to appeal to mums and dads and little kids and all this. It's more, if we can get across to all them, all markets.
The first record company that comes up to you, you don't have to say yes, but you've got to work out in your own mind whether it's the right move or whether it's the wrong move. But if you say no, I mean, it might be your only chance, because in life, like I always believe, you only get so many chances.
Does your record company go for any particular kind of act, Gordon? Do you look for anything in particular?
Yeah, I would say that our company go for an act that will make them a lot of money, like most record companies do, irrespective of what particular type of music that is.
Do you see Altered Images making you a lot of money?
One would hope so. We obviously can't say at this stage 100% that they will make us money, but obviously if they're successful, they will, and we hope that they will be successful.
Do you think it's going to be a tough road ahead for Altered Images?
Well, I think we've got over the worst part, which is breaking out of Glasgow. I think that's the hardest thing for anybody to do, is like to break out the pub scene of Glasgow. I think once you've done that, then like you're halfway there. All you've got to do is like break England, which I mean we've toured England about 3 or 4 times now. I think we're starting to make a name for ourselves down there and get a following. So like the only thing we've got to do now is just sell more records and hopefully get a hit.
Top the pops.
If they run me, and I And the headlines.